Hello and welcome to my channel. What I have for you today is this 1976 built Soviet Smena 8M camera. The most produced camera in the world. Cheap, reliable Soviet legend. There were more than 21 millions of these made. So now you can find a working Smena for 150 or 200 rubles. It's extremely cheap. For example, my KFC meal costs me something like 250 rubles. There are two reasons I want to repair this one. First of all is, as an engineer myself, I feel extremely sorry for any piece of tech destroyed instead of repaired. If it is repairable, I try to repair it. Maybe my inner adeptus mechanicus just tells me to do it. Oh no, it would be a shame to destroy, to throw away a perfectly repairable camera. The second reason is this camera shows the very most principles of Soviet engineering. I think most of you, when you hear the word Russia, remember automat Kalashnikova or Kalashnikov assault rifle, among other things. Automat Kalashnikova was not extremely accurate, but it was simple and reliable, and that's why any child in Africa can use it. Make it as simple and as reliable as it gets was the main principle of Soviet engineering, and this camera illustrates this principle very well. Despite being extremely cheap even in the USSR, for example, its cost was 15 rubles, Soviet rubles, compared to salary of 150 of a standard worker, or maybe 200 for manager. It is not a simple point and shoot like Kodak Instamatic, but instead allows you complete aperture and shutter speed control, and has a very nice glass lens. Another reason these cameras became legendary lies in Soviet labor laws. If you didn't know, labor and employment were mandatory in Soviet Union. If you were unemployed, you went to jail. So a worker working minimum wage was unmotivated, because, as I said, the labor was mandatory and factory manager simply couldn't fire him. So the quality of these workers' work and details, the machining, the tolerances was awful. And most of cameras, mechanical cameras, they require lots and lots of fine machining, of fine details Soviet workers simply couldn't or didn't want to make. This camera, on the other hand, is extremely simple. It can be made by almost an unskilled person who sees heavy machinery for the first time in his life. And to show it, I am going to disassemble this camera right now. To do it, we'll need just one tool, a screwdriver. Flathead thin screwdriver. Maybe you can use another one with a little bit longer working pad. We'll begin our disassembly with removing our shutter and lens located here from the camera body. This is just plastic. We open the back door and find two screws, 1 and 2. As you can see, they are pretty loose. Again, I don't know what broke this camera. Maybe it was gifted to a child. So, we begin with removing two of the screws. Here we go. Now we can remove the body and here we have it, the shutter and lens assembly. Now let me show you the problem. As you can see, we are now at 1/15 of a second. Let's cock the shutter, and this lever releases it, so let's do it. And one more time. As you see, it's a little bit faster than 1/15 of a second. Let's set it to 1:30 or 1:60. Nothing did change. The only shutter speed this shutter has right now is 1/250th of a second. Another problem lies right here. You can remove the lens with your bare hands. We'll do the lens problem later. Now the need to repair the shutter. And I see the problem right now, right away. Again, the disassembly of this camera is extremely simple. Let's cock it one more time, and I'll do one small adjustment. I'll move this tiny part. Release the shutter. And here we go. 1. Oh, sorry. So, as you see, the problem is with shutter delay mechanism. I have to engage it manually every time I want to shoot at slow speeds. So we'll need to disassemble this plate to get into the shutter. To do it, here is the flat spring. We need to depress it and remove the cover. I need to clean it. After removing both plates, remember how they are placed against each other. Here it is. Here is the full access to the shutter mechanism. It's as simple as it gets. This is the whole shutter of this camera. We made the full disassembly in less than 3 minutes. The longest part of the disassembly was to remove the shutter from the camera using these two screws. Actually, this is it. I just don't know what to say more, because you can see my previous video that it takes 20 minutes to disassemble the Zenit. Here it takes much faster. So let's go to our problem. The shutter is a basic Lomo central shutter. So here we have our shutter. This part on the left opens and closes the blades. Right now the shutter is in bulb mode, so you can see it clearly. We have blades open, we have blades closed. Wonderful. But this tiny part here engages a delay mechanism. If it's engaged, when we open the shutter, this gear begins to turn. And while it turns, the shutter slows down, meaning it delays the closing of the blades. So that's it. That's how we get slower shutter speeds, using this simple mechanism. But after each shot, it has to return back into the engaged position. But right now, it doesn't. The reason is this small spring. It should be right here. The spring simply came out of its place, and now that it's good, the mechanism engaged itself. Here it goes. It engages, it goes down in this position after each time we release the shutter. So that's it. We did it. We repaired the shutter. Now we need to assemble it back. You don't need to touch anything else here. No grease, no lube, anything. We'll have time for grease. First of all, we need to put the shutter speed control dial in place. Right here. If you see, this slot actually disengages our mechanism. So right now we get 250th of a second. But if we rotate it, the delay mechanism kicks in, and here you go. The delay mechanism kicks in, and here you go. That's it. I don't know what more to say. If you didn't know how the central shutter works, here it is. Actually, I sound very happy because in my 2 years of camera repair, I had dozens of Zenits, of Fats, of Zorkis. And if there's anything which can cause me to use Russian swear words, is Leica shutter, used on all these cameras. They don't use this nice, good, simple central shutter. we use focal point shutter, which is a nightmare to maintain. It's really a nightmare. So, more central shutter forever. The shutter cover is a little bit dirty from the grease. So here we clean it. Here we do it. This is old 1976 grease. Now we need to place the cover, the first part of the cover, right, like I show you here. So this little pin comes into the slot. And we take our already clean part, slide it here, and here we go. We did it. Check once again the shutter is working. It is. Check once again the bulb mode. It's working. Check once again 1/30 of a second. It's working. So we did it, we made the shutter. Now let's assemble this part back on the camera. Now the screws are already here. The shutter, as you see, the same 76 made, is ready to be installed. So we just install it here. Check these two parts are good and we are good to go. It's very hard to show you here because of dark insides of camera, but believe me, it's all good in there. Shutter release seems to be working. This screw, on the other hand, seems to be not very working. Now he is working. So let's do it one more time. Let me show you. The camera box. The shutter is working. Now to the lens. First of all, the need to assemble it back as it is. Basically, camera is shootable now, but I want to make it as it was. To do it, I'll need some additional tools. This tape, or any tape, it can be insulation tape, and a ruler or something similar. We repair Soviet-made cameras with Soviet-made instruments. Here we go. We need to disassemble the lens, but before disassembling it, we need to know two things, and I'll show you which one. Let's focus it onto the infinity right here and measure this distance. This distance is exactly 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter. And I'm going to insert some tape here. Let me remove the magnet. We won't be needing it anytime soon. That's it. So let's put some tape. The reason I'm doing this is Smena is a gas focus camera, so you don't see the image actually. It isn't an SLR or maybe a big plate camera. It's a point and shoot, and you need to guess and set the focus on factory. Now, after placing the tape, we'll need to remove the screws. The 3 holes with a screw behind each hole. So we go right there and you unscrew it through the hole. I have only one left to show you how it's done. Here you go. Now you shouldn't move or touch the lens, the central part of it. Here we go. So do not touch this lens anymore. Now we removed the lens cover. Do not touch the lens. As you can see, here was a little stopper . Now what I did is very simple. I installed a screw in a hole and greased the lens. Now we need to remember, this part of the lens goes here and the lens itself goes like this. These 2 marks, remember them? Now we just need to retighten the screws and we are good to go. Here we go, we have it. Infinity, 1 meter, and no more unscrewing. Let's check again our distances, dimensions. Exactly 10 millimeters at infinity. Damn, I just scratched it a little. and 12 millimeters at 1 meter, exactly as service book says. So here it is. We did it. We did it. We made it. The camera is working. One more camera in my collection. One more camera I brought from that.